Let's just quickly talk about London and our glorious mayor who is on a mission to destroy the city's economy, small businesses. So over a year ago, he introduced £15 a day congestion charge because he's badly managed the budget for the transport for London, the TfL, and has gone bankrupt twice, where he's asked the government, the central government, to bail him out every time, just about £2 billion. And now he's decided that it would be a good idea to charge people £15 a day to enter London. It used to be from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. and it was £11.50, which was expensive enough. But weekends and after 6 p.m. it was free. So if you wanted to go into central London to do some shopping and you went outside of the rush hour, you could do it. But now you can't, because the congestion charge stops at 10 p.m. and all the shops close at 9 p.m. so there's no point. And as a protest against this charge, since it was introduced, I haven't driven into central London because I don't want to pay a single penny to this mayor and his bad policies. And as much as many of you will hate me saying this, but Labour Party, left-wing people, they don't know how to run a country. You put a peasant in charge of doing brain surgery, of course he'll kill the patient. It's the same thing. London is a patient and it requires serious surgery to fix it, and the people have chosen a moron to do it. For example, if I had to buy tea, there's a specific shop that I really like their tea. I used to go in once a month to buy the tea. The tea costs £15, so it's very expensive. But now if I go to buy that tea, it will cost me £30. So I'm not going to buy it. Similarly, every time I went to central London, I would buy a coffee, a sandwich, I would go to some shops, buy things from time to time. So all those businesses were getting my money. These businesses pay taxes. They have to pay their bills and they have to pay their taxes. By introducing this charge, I don't think he's thinking straight, because no matter how much money he thinks he can make from this, he's going to lose 10-20 times as much from the taxes that these small businesses are paying, and they'll go bankrupt. So all those people's jobs will be lost. They will then fall back onto this system, the social system, which is already not working and it's really under pressure because of the corona situation. The other thing is, he's such a liar that he talks about reducing pollution, but in fact every policy that he has created has increased pollution in London. So most of the side streets in residential areas have been closed down to cars. They're only open to bicycles and pedestrians. So all the traffic is now diverted onto the main roads. So there's a complete chock-a-block everywhere in London because people have to go from A to B. And as you can see, these double-decker buses, there are thousands of them driving around empty. So they are causing pollution. It's costing money to run these buses, the service, the maintenance, the fuel, the job that you have to pay the driver, all of those things. But because it's a social and sort of a communist thing, they have to keep running them even if they're empty. And I've said this before, in central London there's no need to have all these double-decker buses in off-peak hours because there are not enough people using them. So you can have a single-decker and you could run them at longer intervals. So they would be, instead of a bus turning up every 3 minutes, if it turned up every 10-15 minutes, that would be okay, because you don't really see other countries with buses coming every 3 minutes. I go to Germany, France, Sweden, all those countries, 10, 15 minutes. People time their trips accordingly and they wait for a bus. Over here, you just have all these empty buses running. So to facilitate the buses, they have closed all the bus lanes to cars. So in the past, you could drive in the bus lane as long as it was off-peak hours. So between sort of 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock, you couldn't drive in the bus lane. And then in the afternoon you could, and then in the evenings from 4 o'clock to 7 p.m. you couldn't. But now it's 24 hours. They've added one more lane for bicycles. So where there used to be 2 or 3 lanes, now there is 1 lane for cars and 1 lane for a bus and 1 lane for a bicycle. So there are traffic jams everywhere. Not many people ride their bicycles because the distances are huge and the city isn't designed in a way that is suitable for cycling. Plus our weather doesn't allow us. It's constantly raining and you have to take tons of different types of clothes if you're cycling. It's not the culture. It's not going to change overnight. And just by putting cycle lanes, nothing has changed. It's not like suddenly people have dropped their cars and started cycling. So all the policies he has are just absolutely insane. Last time we had a Labour mayor, it was that guy who increased the time that you spent stopped at a traffic light, and he narrowed the streets because that was his way of discouraging people from driving. All these left-wing politicians, they're just such stupid people. They come into power and they think by charging people extra money or threatening them or making their life difficult somehow fixes the problem. You don't have to go very far. You just have to look at the history, recent history. You can just look at East Germany and West Germany, how the GDR went bankrupt because socialism and communism doesn't work. Whereas the problem would be fixed if they made the London transport very efficient, the tube system, train system. They made it very cheap. It's extortionately expensive, and as a result, people drive. I mean, for me, it's cheaper to drive than to take the tube. As for pollution, I've made a separate video because these cars that they're saying are causing pollution is the least of the problems. There are bigger problems, and there are proper ways of tackling pollution. This is like the easiest thing at the moment because the general population is too dumb to understand what actually happens and how the pollution is being caused. They just see cars and they hear this, oh, cars are causing pollution, so therefore we should ban cars or reduce cars. But what about those 5-minute coffee cups, 5-minute packaging for your sandwiches and wrapping and all that? It's all utter rubbish. I will put a link to my other video where I go through all these steps of what you can actually do to reduce pollution. And each one of us can do those easy steps to reduce pollution, and that will help in a big way rather than just talking about cars and how much pollution they produce. The buses are all diesel. They're pumping out so much fumes, and taxis are diesel. If you're behind a taxi here in London, you can barely breathe because their engines are so bad and old. But nothing happens to them. Taxis are waiting at taxi ranks with their engines running, and no one's issuing them tickets because it's part of Transport for London. So you have to incentivize people in a way that it's in their interest to do certain things, and then you can put rules around it to enforce certain things. For example, they can ban all these takeaway cups and takeaway boxes. So if you want to go get a sandwich, bring your own plastic box. Otherwise, take it in your hand in a tissue and that's it. You're not getting a box that you're going to open and then go out of the shop and throw it in the bin. Same thing with coffee mugs. If you don't have a mug, you're not going to get coffee. It's not just the fact that they're used for 5 minutes, it's also the fact that they are being produced somewhere in a factory. They're cutting down trees to produce them. Then they're being shipped. And then from the central depots, they are taken to individual shops. So there is a whole supply chain element of this that is causing pollution. Same thing with deliveries. Why do we need 10 deliveries every day? So if I order 10 things on Amazon, they all turn up at different times. Although I have to say Amazon is making a lot of effort to combine the deliveries, but if they're coming from different depots, then they'll come separately. Whereas they could just have 2 days a week where you could have all your deliveries sent to the local depot, and you would have a 2-hour slot to go and collect your stuff 2 days a week. If it's that urgent, you need something today, walk up to the shop and buy it from there. So in my other video, I talk about all these various ways of fixing it. And as you can tell, the quality of the roads is horrific. The amount of taxes we pay, the local council tax, the road tax, the blah blah tax, and the roads are horrible.